The great illusion of time is a very interesting process to undertake in my own meditations and my own growth. Something I'm sharing with Alicia over the last, I'm going to say for a couple months, more particularly, but even before then, but very directly, is bridging illusions of time. And suddenly, the great problem with that is all that you ever are and all that you ever were always is. So simultaneously, even beings that were long gone, not even just as a past life as you think of it, but a beingness you could have embodied, then left, transcended, and gone back into the undifferentiated truth of God, that is still you. And it's still available to all of us. The masters of India, who work in something that I, Alicia, and a lot of you here also work with, called the sound current, or the audible light, as they call it in India, the word you hear. They look at the great adversary of being free of this creation and being free to come into the remembrance of God. They call it the call power. And a translation for them of the call power is the time spirit. So it's a negative force that seeks to promote our engagement with time. Now I'm moving kind of quickly because this is stuff we've talked about before, and I don't want to go too long, but it's setting the table, I think, for a lot of what we might do. So a big part of my work here today with you is to make myself available to knowledge and information that I'm talking to you now, which was shared in a class we did, and maybe the first class we ever did 5, 6 years ago. And for me, this information came from the Buddha. And he talked about that we are trapped in time. And being trapped in time, it keeps us from the moment. It keeps us from now, and keeps us then from being free of the story of us, the story of becoming. And he said there's 3 factors that really played out. I'm going to summarize it really quickly. We'll probably get into this in more detail in the workshop. But he said that there is, well, his teachings as it's come down thinking of Buddhism were, they said that Buddha went out to find the secret and the solution to old age, sickness, and death. Well, when I was talking to him, he said, you could better understand it in a higher way, in a higher level. It's like penetrating past the mind and penetrating past the illusion of time. It was, first of all, moving past the illusion of comparability, or the process of comparability in our consciousness, which means if I'm having an experience right now, there's that in my consciousness that would want to compare the experience I'm having right now to what I've had before. That I would take this experience and try and catalog it or plug it into the experiences I've had before. And in the process of doing that, it would, in a sense, be added into my story of what is so, who I am, what the world's about, what God is doing here, etc. So comparability, which is looking back. He said, the second one, and you could think of this as like old age. Somebody gets old, and what do? They look back at their memories. I was watching television last night, and all of a sudden some guy gave his father some momentum when he was a child, and the man was crying. He says, because he took him back to a precious time. Comparability. The second great illusion is predictability. The predictability is looking into the future, trying to foretell what's next. So we leave the moment and we go into fear related to what might be or what might not be, the predictability. And so this then becomes one of the big challenges for us, is that we get caught in future projecting, fortune telling. I was listening to an astrology reading that another person received the other night, and the information was kind of interesting because I kind of really understand astrology from when I was really young, and so I was kind of going, oh yeah, and then as it got more into the predictability of, well, this means that'll happen, that means this will happen. There was something inherently, I won't say wrong, but inherently undermining to me and for me in letting my mind try to project into those future times and trying to figure out if that was so and if that really meant that. I was in the game of predictability, and as I let myself go into that, I felt a level of separation from my deeper knowing, from the deeper truth of God. Not a terrible one, but it was enough that it was distinct to me that this is inviting me to leave the moment. And if the kingdom of heaven is at hand, if the blessings already are, then why would I ever want to leave the moment? Because it says where I want to be is at hand. It's now. And so that second temptation of predictability, in a way, actually, if you think of it, relates to sickness. Comparability is old age. See, they're always looking back. Predictability is that fear of, yeah, but what about tomorrow? Will I still have my job? What happens if I get sick? Do I have enough retirement? Do I have health insurance? So it binds us through continually engaging us in the predictability. And the third illusion, which is probably the biggest one for us here, is the illusion of finality. Finality, the illusion that we end, that the story of me, the story of you ends, that there is an ending to all this. That this can all fade away, and that we will all fade away. So this is then death, the illusion of death.